Hi everyone, today is just a quick introduction to my new car, an Audi RS6. So this is a C5 generation car, 2004. I actually bought this at a classic car auction by Iconic in Warwickshire. And it was an unexpected purchase. It wasn't one I was particularly thinking about buying. Today's video is just a very quick introduction to the car, tell you a little bit about it and how I'm finding it in my first month of ownership. But I'll do a proper full review in due course, probably in a couple of months or so when I've had a chance to really get to know it. So this is, as I said, C5 generation. This RS6 didn't come around until 2002 and famous really, I suppose, primarily for just the engine and power. So this had the 4.2 litre twin turbo V8, which hopefully you can hear still sounds great today. So an awesome engine developed in collaboration with Cosworth, chucked out just shy of 450 horsepower. This one has been modified, probably running 510, 520 horsepower or something. It also has buckets of torque. Great fun to drive. But yeah, this car has the Apple CarPlay, reversing camera plugged in, the remap, KW coilovers which removed the dynamic ride control and adjustable suspension that this car has as standard and is notoriously terrible. And it's also had the bottom of the car all cleaned up, suspension components powder coated, and then the whole undercarriage under-sealed as well. So incredibly well looked after. I bought this car because it had been so well looked after. It's had £25,000 spent on it in the last 10,000 miles, or 12,000 miles, sorry, in 10 years. So one lady owner in that 10 years, as I say, did 12,000 miles, spent 25,000 in upgrades and maintenance on it. Actually, I'm really pleased with the overall condition of the car. The bodywork's all straight, no dinks. There's some minor damage on the rear bumper which has been touched up previously. Doesn't really come out on camera. There is a minor kind of scrape on the front bumper which could be touched up slightly. Otherwise the paintwork does have some swirl marks, quite a lot in fact in certain lights, but that will polish out and I'll do that when the weather's a bit better. The wheels are in fantastic condition. They must have been refurbished fairly recently. There's not a mark on them. Perfect really. As you can see, wear on the driver's seat bolster, the leather's a tiny bit dirty, that could be cleaned up. And you can see the leather slightly creased on the doors. One problem these cars can have is that pixels in this centre display on the dashboard can go. This one looks absolutely fine. Some wear around these window buttons and a couple of the buttons on the dashboard. I bought this for a hammer price of £6,500, so I can't remember exactly what that was. I guess around 7.2, 7.3. You can actually see the auction I bought this from in one of my videos, and you can also see another Audi RS6 C5 generation that I was considering at another auction, Anglia Car Auctions this time, which I featured in one of my videos as well. That was an estate in grey, so probably preferable for me. But crucially, it had 4 years of no service record at all, no maintenance record in the last 4 years. And for this kind of car, to me, that's just a total red flag and a non-starter. I'm not going to look at a car like that. I think that went for just under £10,000 from memory. So that looked a reasonable buy, but it was, these are high-risk cars, as I said, with the DRC in particular. This has been swapped out, so no issue on that one. But the other big thing is the gearbox. The torque converter is notorious for giving up the ghost. It can't handle the torque, basically. This has been very well cared for. It's had 4 gearbox fluid changes, which may well help prolong the life of the gearbox. But I thought at that price it's worth a punt. Even if I have some big repair bills in the multiple thousands, I should pretty much recoup my money when I come to sell it in, say, a year's time. I think probably those issues with the gearbox have actually kept the price of these cars down, in my opinion. I think they're pretty much, they've been fairly static over the last few years. I'm not sure they're going to get any cheaper because, this is still a desirable car, particularly with that awesome engine that it's got. I guess that's why most people buy it. That said, I'm not sure they're going to appreciate much in price because of those issues. For me, weighing up the risk as well, if you get a well cared for one, maybe at 20 years old, most of the problems have been dealt with and arisen, so gearboxes, if they were going to go, may have gone, or they've been replaced or been strengthened. Perhaps all the mistreated cars have now kind of been off the road or been fully repaired, who knows. But it felt like a risk I was willing to take anyway. So of course you've got a 5-speed auto box with these manual paddles. Yeah, you can see the gearbox. It's a bit of a lurch, it's not the smoothest of changes and it's not the quickest either, of course, but that's just how the gearbox was back then. I've got no concern yet about the gearbox. So yeah, pretty pleased with the purchase. Yeah, the suspension is absolutely awful in this. It's so hard. You feel absolutely everything, no compliance at all. And on top of that, if you're cornering whilst on a bumpy piece of road, it tends to not absorb the bumps and kind of skip across them. It's difficult to describe, but I'm still getting to know the car. But yeah, this was never known as a great handling car with a particularly good chassis. Everyone knows that, really. And of course, it's not really helped by the fact that the engine was so far over the front. If you look at where it's laid out, very nose heavy and therefore classic Audi understeer. You know, all that said, it's still great fun. You can chuck it round corners. It just has limitations and it's perhaps a bit of a compromised car in some aspects. But Quattro all-wheel drive with a proper Torsen centre diff means you have amazing traction. This amount of power, even by today's standards, and it's a 20-year-old car. You know, it's great. It's really impressive. Huge fun. Sounds great, the engine. So I'll just show you. I'll stick it in sport mode and see how she goes. I'm not sure how the sound comes out with my sound setup. You probably hear a bit in the cabin. And here we go. Yeah, really nice. It revs, it pulls all the way to the red line, 6,500 RPM. Brakes are strong, very good in fact, and a surprisingly good feel to them. So yeah, that's really nice. And if we just flick down into second and do another pull, there is some turbo lag, as you'd expect. Why, it just keeps pulling, it really does. You expect it to not pull so strongly at the higher speeds, but it just keeps pulling. Yeah, impressive. And what's it like round these corners? Probably not quite so great. Yeah, as I say, a little bit of turbo lag. It's not as bad as I thought it would be for a fairly old school car. Whoop, there we go, bit of a wiggle out there, even with the Quattro. But you can power out of the corners so well in this car. It just bites in. Such a good system. Yeah, it's getting a bit out of shape even with the Quattro, as I say, but the conditions are awful. Slimy mud on these roads, damp, etc. Of course, Audis always have a reputation for understeering, lack of steering feel. That's kind of true. The weight of the steering is a bit heavier than I expected, actually. Certainly at lower speeds, anyway. It's not that bad. It's what you expect from an Audi. There's not huge amounts of feel. It doesn't seem to really understeer too much. But it is nose heavy. It doesn't corner as well as you might hope, let's say, but it's still great fun. So all in all, great fun car, fun to blat it around roads like this, and in these conditions is where, of course, Audi Quattros really excel. Yeah, well, thanks for watching. Watch out for my full review video of this soon.